Good morning, everybody. Welcome back from the break. If you're visiting with us today, my name is Brad. I serve as the lead pastor here at the Vineyard. Real quick note, I just wanted to give an explanation about why there is no night service next Sunday, because there wasn't any. So we were actually, the Vineyard here was supposed to host a site of Project Timothy, which is a huge regional youth event. And so it was supposed to start on Thursday, or next Thursday, and go through next Tuesday. Unfortunately, there were not a lot of kids that signed up to participate in that youth event. I think in our whole region, which spans Maine to Maryland, there were only 18 kids available. Most of them from the northern area, like Massachusetts, Maine, and New Hampshire. So they just decided to do one site of that Project Timothy and not our southern site. So that's why, we had it off, rather than trying to run around in summer and get a bunch of people scheduled for all the things that need to happen, we just decided to keep the service as morning only. But I'm going to issue a challenge to everyone for next Sunday evening, since it's kind of a free night. Invite someone to dinner or lunch or coffee or a picnic at Hills Creek or Ives Run. Use that free time, that hour and a half free time, to engage with someone new or someone old and have a grand old time, okay? So that's the explanation as why there's only one service next week. So this morning's message is going to be kind of a finale to a trio of messages that I've given recently. In June, I gave a message called Life is Hard, But. And in that sermon, the point that I made was that there are seasons of life that are hard, but Jesus is steadfast. And we define steadfast as dutifully firm. And in that message, I encouraged you in your hard season just to cling on to Jesus. And then last week, I gave a sequel to that message, an unexpected sequel called When the Battle Comes. And in that message, I focused on where God is at when battles seem to wage war against you. And we discussed the verse from Psalm 23 that says, "He has prepared a table for me in the presence of my enemies." And we focused on the point that God's presence is a place of refuge for us in the midst of battle. And so today I'm going to close out this accidental kind of three-part series by discussing how we should respond to those battles and difficult times. Let's pray. Holy Spirit, I invite you to come. I invite you to move in our hearts and in our minds. Reveal the truth of your word and its power to move in our everyday lives, God. Let us be encouraged that, Jesus, you are steadfast, that, God, that you have prepared a place of refuge. And help us in the midst of battles and trials and struggles to rest in the truth that you are present. Amen. So this morning we are going to spend some time, most of our time, probably all of our time, in a very less popular book from the Old Testament called Habakkuk. Okay? If you like to follow along in your Bible, and you don't have an electronic version of the Bible, you're going to find this book of the Bible between Nahum and Zephaniah. And if that doesn't help, if you go to the New Testament and you go back 5 books, you'll find Habakkuk, okay? Now, this book is generally accepted as written by the prophet Habakkuk in the mid to late 7th century BC. And the majority of this book records a dialogue between the prophet and God. And the theme, as we'll find out, is how to grow from a place of doubting and questioning God to absolute trust in him. And so as the book opens, that's exactly the place that Habakkuk finds himself, in a place where he is doubting and questioning what he sees in the world and God's presence there. He is distressed about what he considers God's inaction in his situation and the situation of his nation. Specifically, he's crying out about the Babylonian Empire, who is successfully just oppressing and ravaging the Israelite kingdom of Judah. And he cries out to God in chapter 1 of his book. In verse 2, he cries out, "How long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen?" Verse 3, "Why do you make me look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrongdoing?" Later on in verse 13, he says, "Why then do you tolerate the treacherous? Why are you silent while the wicked swallow up those more righteous than themselves?" That is his cry. This morning I ask, have you ever been where Habakkuk is? You have all these battles waging war against you. You see evil and justice prevailing, and you just question, God, why are you inactive? Where are you, God? Have you asked the question, why did this loved one have to die? Why does my marriage have to be such a struggle? Why can an addicted prostitute get pregnant and I can't? Why do these negative thoughts constantly prevail in my mind? Why, God, why do you allow it? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do you tolerate that? Where are you? Why? Have you been there? Have you been in that place? Are you there in that place now? Where you have battles waging war against you and God seems strangely silent? I want to encourage you that this is a prophet crying out to God with these questions. And so I'm pretty sure it's okay for us to cry out to God with those questions. If a prophet can do it, we can do it. And so Habakkuk is crying out to God with his doubts and his questions over the hardships and the trials that this nation, Judah, is going through. And God isn't silent. He answers. And he answers a couple different times in chapter 1 and chapter 2. But the one I really want to focus on this morning is his response in chapter 2 of Habakkuk, verses 2 and 3. And it says, "Then the Lord replied, 'Write down the revelation and make plain on tablets so that a herald may run with it.'" So God's saying, I'm about to tell you something. So write it down and then give it to heralds or messengers, and they're going to run and share this news, okay? And so what he says in verse 3, "For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end, and it will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." And so God says here in response or in answer to the question of Habakkuk, write it down, have some messengers share it. I have a plan for the end and it will be fulfilled, but it's going to be fulfilled in the appointed time. You'll have to wait. It's not going to be late. It won't delay. You have to wait. God is saying here in my words, all that bad stuff, all that hard stuff, everything that Judah is experiencing, I'm not oblivious to it. I know what's happening. It hasn't gone unnoticed, not at all. there is an appointed time in which I am going to take care of those things, and it will be fulfilled for my purposes and for your abundant life. It won't linger, it won't delay, but you are going to have to wait for it. That's a hard pill to swallow. When the enemy is crushing you, squeezing every bit of life out of you, and the Lord's answer is wait. Just wait to that appointed time. You see, God's clock's not our clock. His time isn't our time. A couple weeks ago, we were vacationing with my mom and stepdad and my sister and brother-in-law, and we were on the West Coast. And so we were traveling, and like the second to last night of our cruise, we were on a cruise, we went from a 3-hour time difference to a 2-hour time difference. And so there were all these reminders like, hey, tonight, move your clock ahead 1 hour, because overnight we're going to be moving into this new time zone. And so we all have phones. And we were on a cruise with no service, so we had them on airplane mode, right? And so when we woke up, Lori and I woke up, and we were to meet for breakfast at 9 a.m. We woke up, and it was like 7:30, and Lori's like, but it's really 8:30. Like, our clocks didn't switch because we're on airplane mode. And so I'm like, oh, right, I wonder if anyone else knew that. And so we hurried and got up because we knew we only had half an hour to get to breakfast. And so we show up in the buffet area, and there's Debbie and Mike are there. And I'm like, okay, they got it. And we sat down and we were talking, and Manga and Bumpa never showed up and didn't show up. And we're like, oh, I bet they didn't equate that their time didn't jump forward like it should have because they're on airplane mode. And so we're sitting there. Well, we ate. Like, we weren't waiting. So we just ate. Went to the buffet a couple times. About 9:30, quarter of, I can't remember exactly, in stroll Manga and Bumpa. And we're done. Like, we're kind of leaned back, sipping that last bit of coffee, and they come in and we're like, hey, I said, you forgot about the time thing, didn't you? And they're like, well, yeah, we've been up just sitting in the room waiting for 9. Sometimes we have to wait, right? There's an expectation, and what God is saying to Habakkuk, the expectation that you have, seeing me work, it's coming, but at my appointed time, not yours. Like, our clocks are different. God's timetable is different, and we have to try to make the adjustment and wait on Him. Our tendency is to hurry things along, to force what we want to see happen in our time. And so this is what he tells Habakkuk. He has a plan for the Babylonians, and he has a plan for Judah. And he says the Babylonians, if you read on through chapter 2, they're going to get what's coming to them. I have that all figured out. And Judah's going to be spared, and you're going to have abundant life. But, Habakkuk, you and the people, you have to wait until that time comes. And I'm not going to be late by my clock, but it'll delay out in your clock. Jesus said he came that we would have a full, abundant life. But we have to trust that the plan of God, the plan that sent Jesus, his son, to die on the cross for us, has overcome evil, the evil that we see in this now and not yet kingdom that we live in, that evil that is pressing around us and squeezing the life out of us. But we have to wait for the appointed time for it to be fulfilled. And guys, I wish I could be like this next part. Habakkuk responds to God's just wait with a prayer in chapter 3. And the whole chapter is kind of the prayer, but I'm going to focus only on just a part of it. It comes from verses 16 to 19. And Habakkuk, part of his prayer to God after hearing that he has to wait for this appointed time, he says, I heard and my heart pounded, my lips quivered at the sound. Decay crept into my bones and my legs trembled. Yet, I will wait patiently for the day of calamity to come on the nation invading us. Though the fig tree does not bud and there are no grapes on the vine, though the olive crop fails and the field produces no food, though there are no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stall, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God my Savior. The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He enables me to tread on the heights. Habakkuk's response is, even though I will, even though the nation is destroying us, I will wait and rejoice. Even though life is hard and I don't see a way out, I will wait and rejoice. Even though I wake up every day with struggle and trial and hardship, I will wait and rejoice, because the Lord's word is true, that he sent Jesus that we might have a full and abundant life. My point this morning for you is, even though the battles rage, I will wait and rejoice in God's presence. He's already has the table there. He's invited us to sit down in the midst of the battle at that table. Our response is, even though the battles continue, I will wait and rejoice in God's presence. And in the battles you are facing today, the battles raging around you, as you sit at the table he has prepared for you, will you say, I will wait patiently? Will you say, I will rejoice in the Lord? Will you say, I will be joyful in God my Savior? Because there is power in the waiting. Isaiah 40, 29 and 31, this is from the King James Version, says, he giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might he increases strength. For even the youth shall faint and be weary, even the young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. Strength is renewed in the waiting. Lamentations, a whole book of just crying out to God and lamenting, says, I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I well remember them, and my soul is downcast within me. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. The Lord is good for those who hope is in him, the one who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. Hope is renewed in the waiting. So how do we wait? I thought a lot about that this week. How do you wait? Did some Google searching. There's lots of answers out there if you hit Google. Or suggestions, maybe I should say, not answers. But I found one that particularly, and if you're there today, if you're in that place where you just feel like, yeah, easy to say, wait, a lot harder to do, I get you. But here's a few things that this article says. Go ahead and lament. Cry out to God about what you see and what you feel and ask him, what's up? Put negative thoughts to rest. Because here's what happens when we don't see God moving the way we think he should or moving at all, and it seems like we pray and he's silent. We can really, at least I can really, in my head, go down a spiral of negative thoughts. Oh, this isn't important to him. I've done something wrong and he's angry at me. Negative thought after negative thought. Put them to rest and rely on the truth of God's word and what it says about his love for you. Third thing, meditate on others who have waited. Meditate on others who have waited. You can open up the Bible and read stories of people after people after people who had to wait. Some faithfully, some not so faithfully. Not too long ago, we did a whole heroes series on the heroes, what we call the heroes of faith. Every one of them had to wait. Every one of them had to wait. Meditate on them. Take a look at their life. How did they do it? Number 4, lean on other followers of Jesus. The enemy wants us to be isolated. He wants us to feel we're alone and that the battles that we're facing, man, we're by ourselves. Lean on others who are following Jesus. And lastly, trust in God's love for you. He loves you. He loves you so incredibly. And when war is being waged against us, and it doesn't feel like we don't feel love at all, trust that he loves you so much that John 3:16 says he gave his one and only son to die for us. I have 4 sons. That'd be a hard pill to swallow to hand one over for someone else. But God has a strong love. And if you're here today and you're just kind of shuddering at that thought, he loves you, he loves you, he loves you, he loves you, he loves you. And this battle that you're going through, he's not ignoring. He's not absent. He has a plan and a purpose. And he's asking you to trust him in the waiting. James 1 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." There is strength in rejoicing. And when that appointed time comes, we have a promise of Romans 8:28 that all things, we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Church, in your struggles, in your trials, in your hardships and battles, Jesus is steadfast. He is steadfast. God has prepared a table for you in those battles so that you can find refuge in his presence. And even though those battles may linger, wait and rejoice in him. Let's pray. Holy Spirit, I invite you to come. I invite you to move in this place. Move among us. God, help us to be a people that trust in your love, trust in your plan, trust that you have not abandoned us. Give us the strength and the endurance to wait and rejoice that you are God and Savior. Amen. I'm going to invite you to stand, and we're going to move actually right into ministry time. This morning, if you're visiting, ministry time is a time that we set aside at the end of our services just to invite the Holy Spirit to come and to move in our lives. And we believe that God is actively present. And so that's a time, if you're going through a struggle or a battle this morning, that you just need to be lifted up. You just need to lament with someone. Our ministry team, and they'll be stepping out to the front and the back. They are there for that purpose, just to invite the Holy Spirit to pray with you, to encourage you. And as we worship and do ministry, just a couple questions to consider today. Are you finding the battles of life just difficult to watch and navigate? Are you right now in this moment asking why God is allowing this battle, where he is in this battle? And do you need strength to wait and rejoice? If you can answer those questions, that's what our ministry team is here for.